Hey all, Mr. K here. Today we're going to talk about surface area and nets and how do I find the surface area of a three-dimensional object. We're going to start with the first box on your notes that says find the surface area of a cube. And I just happen to have a cube. So when you look at a cube has 6 sides. It's like a dice. Remember we talked about that before. But if I take the left side and I open it up, and I take the bottom and I open it up, and then I take the right side and open it up, and then I take the front and the back, it looks like this, which is really the same as the shape here, only the 2 sides are in the middle instead of on the top. So when I put this cube back together, that's a 6-sided three-dimensional object. So I have 6 sides that I need to find the area if I want to find the entire surface area. So, what is the area of one face? We know that one face is 5 centimeters, okay? So or one side of a face. So if one side of the face is 5 centimeters, and I find a square's area by taking length times width, then 5 times 5 equals 25 squared centimeters. How many faces does a cube have? Well, we just showed you how many, and also you can see it here. There are 6. So if I take 25 square centimeters, which is one face, multiply it by 6, I get 150 square centimeters, and that's my total surface area for a cube. Now we're going to head over here and talk about a rectangular prism. Here's the story with a rectangular prism. Here we go. There's a rectangular prism, okay? If I was to take this out of here, again, let me make sure I show you, right side, left side, right? The right side and the left side are the same. And then I have the front and I have the back, and those two are exactly the same. And then I have the top and the bottom. Those two are exactly the same. So a rectangular prism is going to look very similar to a cube, only these are all going to be rectangles instead of squares. Okay? And the one thing I want you to remember is the right side is the same as the left side. The front is the same as the back. And the top is the same as the bottom. So how are we going to find this? Well, let's think about that. If I want to do the top and the bottom of this particular rectangular prism, we know that the bottom and the top are the same. So if I was going to outline that for you, there's the bottom and there's the top. They're both the same. So I'm going to use 8 times 3 because the length times the width is 8 times 3. The one thing to remember is because they're both the same, I'm going to take that 8 times 3 and multiply it by 2. One of them is the top, one of them is the bottom. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the sides. For the sides, I'm doing width times height. So show you that again, width times height. So that's 3 times 5 times 2 because it's the right side and the left side. Hopefully that makes sense. Replay that if you need to. Last but not least, the front and the back. So if I was to draw you a picture of the front, here is the front of this object. The back of that object would be here. So now I'm looking at that 8 times the height because it's length times height. And length times height is 8 times 5. Again, because there are 2 of those, it's 8 times 5 times 2. Hope that makes sense. If not, please replay this a few times until you finally get it up here in your noggin, okay? So I've written all those out for you, all the 8s and the 3s and the 5s, and all you're going to do is multiply those, and here is the way to do it if you only have 6 different sides. Here is the way to do it if you understand that 2 of those sides are alike. Short way, long way. And you can do it either way. You're going to get the same answer, okay? If I add 40 plus 15 plus 15 plus 24 plus 40 plus 24, I get the same answer as 48 plus 30 plus 80. I need for you to do that whichever way works best for you, okay? If you understand the concept of having two of these sides the same, use this method. If you're not sure about that, draw it out as a two-dimensional object and figure each area out. You see a little picture over here that has an 8 and a 3 and a 5. I'm going to make that just a little bit easier for you, make it larger, okay? There are three different numbers you see, a length, a width, and a height. And when we talk about surface area, we have to find the surface of all 6 sides of a rectangular prism. So when you see this, we're talking about 8 times 3. We're also talking about we're also talking about, let me do this the right way for you so I don't mess this all up. Same way as it is up top. I'm going to do 8 times 5 first. Then I'm going to do 8 times 3, and then I'm going to do 3 times 5. Sometimes I do that this way. 8 times 3, 3 times 5, and 8 times 5. And each one of those will be multiplied by 2 because the top and the bottom, the two sides and the front and the back are all the same. Okay? Play that back if you need to a couple times, and I think that should help. Let's go down here to the next 2 slides. We're now going to look at a triangular prism. A triangular prism has a triangle on both sides of the prism. These 2 triangles are both congruent and parallel, so they are exactly the same. So if I was to take that triangle down and this triangle down, the 3 shapes that are left also spread out, okay? I want you to remember that if the triangles are equal and congruent, then these 3 sides might be the same, okay? Because they all come up together to meet the triangles, both of these 2 sides. But this other side, excuse me, could be completely different. Doesn't have to be, but could be, okay? So I just want you to remember, they don't all 3 have to be the same in a triangular prism, okay? But how do we find the surface area? Well, the first thing to do is to remember I have 2 triangles. So if I'm showing a base of 10 and a height of 8, then I'm going to take that 8 times 2, I'm going to divide that by, I'm going to take that 10 times 8, and I'm going to divide it by 2, or multiply by a half. They're both the same. But then I have to multiply it by 2 because there are 2 exact triangles. One more time. Both of these triangles are congruent and equal and parallel. So I'm going to take 2 times the formula of a triangle because there are 2 that are alike. So 1/2 times base times height, or base times height divided by 2. Okay? Think about that. Pause, back it up, listen again. Hopefully that will make sense. Now I have 3 rectangles I have to find. And each one of those rectangles are going to be length times width. Okay? So I have 10 times 15, 10 times 15, and 10 times 15 because all 3 of those were exactly alike. That won't always be the case. There are times where there will be a different rectangle on the bottom, so to speak, of that rectangular prism, and you might have to find numbers differently. And we'll get to one of those a little bit later. Okay? So you're going to find each one of these, add them all together, and that gives you your total surface area. One thing I want to caution you about when we're doing surface area, remember, we're multiplying units by units. So m times m is m squared. Okay? Next, we're going to talk about pyramids. Now, for pyramids, a pyramid has only one base. So if I'm talking about a squared pyramid, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 triangles, all surrounding one square. Okay? The difference between a prism and a pyramid, the prism has 2 congruent sides, the pyramid has only one base. Okay? So again, in a prism, 2 bases, congruent and parallel. In a pyramid, only one. And the name of it is always based on the base. So if you can remember, based on the base, that's the name. That's a square. This is a squared pyramid. If I was to take all 4 of those triangles, this is what that would look like. Okay? And you can see that picture right here. Okay? So, if by chance that is a squared pyramid, a square has all sides that are equal, so every one of these triangles have to be equal because they all meet at a point at the top. So if this is a square and every side is the same, then all 4 of these triangles must be the same. So you'll notice all 4 of these are 1/2 times 6 times 3. There's the base, there's the height. Or 6 times 3 divided by 2. Very same thing, just like we learned in a formula last week. Here are all 4 of the triangles, and then you just have to remember the base. The base is 6 times 6 because every side of that square is the same. Okay? So now we move on to the last 2 shapes that we need to discuss. And those last 2 shapes are also pyramids. The first one is called a rectangular pyramid. So again, remember, in a rectangular pyramid, do I have a rectangular pyramid? I don't have a rectangular pyramid. In a rectangular pyramid, instead of this being a square, it's a rectangle. So remember, for a rectangle, they have 2 equal sides and 2 equal sides. But they don't have to be the same or they'd be a square. So I'm going to have 2 triangles that are exactly alike, and I'm going to have 2 triangles that are exactly alike. The green triangles have to be the same, the blue triangles have to be the same. So when I do my formulas, triangle 1 and 2 are the same, triangle 3 and 4 are the same. The only difference is now I'm doing base and height for the rectangle, that's 8 times 6, and I'm doing 1/2 times 8 times 12, and 1/2 times 6 times 14, because a triangle is base times height divided by 2. I would add all 5 of those up, and I get my surface area of the entire rectangular pyramid. Last but not least, I have a triangular pyramid. In a triangular pyramid, again, the base is a triangle, and we always name them by the base, which means there will be only 3, count them, 3 different triangles that meet at a point at the top. So that would be a triangular pyramid because there's only one base. Okay? In a triangular pyramid, and we're going to just talk about equilateral triangles. So remember, an equilateral triangle means every triangle is the same, including the one in the center. Because if all 3 of them on the sides are equal, so is the base. Just like in a square has 4 sides that are equal, a triangle that is equilateral has every side the same. So every one of these numbers will be the same. If you find 1 height and 1 base, then you can take that 6 times 10 divided by 2, or multiply by 1/2, and you're going to get the same number 4 times. Multiply them together, voila, there's your answer. Guys, this is all new material for you in 6th grade, so I suggest that you watch this video more than once, or hopefully you've started and stopped it a whole bunch. And thank you very much. Your worksheet today for homework should be a lot easier.